Okay, Shkoyach. Okay, welcome everyone. Tonight we'll speak about Ahava Rabba. Ahava Rabba is the tefillah we say right before we say Shema. So we'll speak about it. And just to put it in the context of what we've been saying so far. So this Ahava Rabba corresponds to the menorah in the Heichal, which is menorah, the symbol of Torah and spirituality. So the Gemara says in Brachos, this is really the first source for Ahava Rabba. It explains that they said this bracha even during the times of the Beis Hamikdash, but it may have been with a different nusach. But the Gemara in Brachos says, there has a question: do you say Ahava Rabba or is it called Avas Olam, meaning great love or a love of Olam forever? So there's a debate among the Tanaim, and since there was this debate, so the way that we decided to do is we say Ahava Rabba in the morning, and we say Avas Olam at night. That's the practice of the Ashkenazim. Okay, that's basically the source for it. The Shulchan Aruch, just to speak out one or two halachas before we explain the actual meaning and the words behind the tefillah. So this tefillah we're going to talk about, it's basically all about Torah. That's the focus of Ahava Rabba. Torah, mitzvos, so it's interesting that we have an obligation to say birchas Torah, blessings of the Torah in the morning. But if one forgets to do that in the morning, then they would fulfill their obligation by saying Ahava Rabba. That's how much this part of tefillah is connected with Torah. The Shulchan Aruch does say, though, since when you say birchas Torah in the morning, you're supposed to learn afterwards. So too that if you said Ahava Rabba without saying birchas Torah, you should make sure to learn a little bit after Shemona Esrei. And then at the end of the bracha, so there's another interesting halacha, just because we're talking about Ahava Rabba, is that the Mishnah Berurah explains the best thing to do when you're saying Ahava Rabba as part of a minyan is you should try to make sure to finish the bracha at the same time that the chazan does, so that way you don't need to say amen to his bracha, and then there's no break in between when you say the bracha and you're saying Shema, because you're not saying amen. But if you happen to finish before the chazan, then it's okay. You can say amen and then say Shema afterwards. But that's just an interesting halacha. And two more things just before we get into actual words. That the Kolbo quotes from the Abu Draham that those who say Ahava Rabba with a good kavana, good intent, that he talks about the great things that's going to happen to them. You're going to have success in your learning. You're going to have good marriage, to have children who are Talmidei Chachamim, they're tzaddikim, they have good midos. So it's very important to say this bracha with kavana. And then finally, just wanted to share this idea that I heard from Rabbi Yaakov Emden, that to connect it to the bracha that we spoke about last week, is that we say at the end of the bracha we say Yotzer HaMe'oros, the one who created Me'oros. So why is that in the plural? So he explains based on a Rashi in Parshas Bereshis that when it says Vayar Es Ha'orki Tov, right, when God saw that the light was good, it wasn't talking about light that we experience. It's the light that he hid away for tzaddikim. And then at the end of the bracha, we say Or Chadash Atzion here, that we're asking for this new light to be revealed, and that's the light that God hid away. And so then we go from Yotzer Me'oros to ask for Ahava Rabba. And Ahava Rabba is we're asking for the Torah, because the Torah has an or, it has a light that's even greater than all the other oros. The Baal Shem Tov explains that Hashem hid that or, right? He hid the or of Parshas Bereshis in the Torah, and this is what the Gemara means when the Gemara says in Megillah that Ora or light is Torah, and that's what the pasuk says. Kiner mitzvah v'Torah, or Torah is light. So we go from the light of the stars and the sun and the moon, and then we go to the other light, which is the light of Torah, the true light. Okay, so let's talk about the actual words of Ahava Rabba. So the tefillah says, Ahava Rabba Apanu Hashem Elokeinu, you have loved us with ever increasing love, Hashem our God. It's interesting, the term Ahavas Olam doesn't appear. Sorry, Ahava Rabba doesn't appear in Tanakh, but Ahavas Olam does appear in Tanakh, which is probably, that's the reason for that understanding of the Gemara, that Ahavas Olam is the actual term in Tanakh, but still we say Rabba means constantly increasing, meaning it's the idea that every generation down has expanded on Torah knowledge. And when you look at a Mishnah, right, and then the Mishnah turns into the Gemara, and then you look in the Gemara and there's 5 different Mefarshim on the Gemara, and then on that page of Gemara there's halacha, and there's more books trying to explain what this one said. It's just ever increasing Rabba, increasing Torah. And the Ahava, the love, is the fact that Hashem gave us His Torah. Chamla Gedola V'Sera Chamalta Aleinu. You have shown us this great and overwhelming compassion. So Rav Schwab has the idea that the word Chamla, which we translate as compassion, appears 2 times in Tanakh. So he says the first time it's about Bas Paro, when she sees Moshe. The pasuk says V'tichmolav, she had mercy on him. And the other time it says it's about Torah. That the Torah forbids judges to be merciful against someone who's amasted. Amasted is someone who convinces others to worship idols. And the pasuk says, "Lo tachmol, lo techaseh alav," that you shouldn't have mercy on this guy. So Rashab explains that both these things indicate the changing from din, meaning Bas Paro, she had a rule that she wasn't supposed to save any Jewish babies, but she was merciful. And so to these judges, that if they would be mercy on this guy, they would change something which is din, which is just, and turn it into mercy. So we're saying here that even though we may not deserve God's compassion, since sometimes we neglect Torah study, we put it off, do other stuff, nevertheless Kadosh Baruch Hu has changed the din from us and turned it into mercy, and given us the ability to study Torah. Next sentence. Avinu Malkeinu Babur Avutinu Shebatchu V'cha V'Talam Deim Chuki Chaim Kein Chaninu Stamdeinu. Our Father, our King, for the sake of our forefathers who had faith in you, you taught them the laws of our life, so may you also endure us spiritually and teach us. Okay, so there's a lot here in this sentence. Number one, this is just a nice medrash I heard on Avinu, that when we say Avinu, our Father, so just like a son who's not embarrassed to return to his father after many years away, so too a Jew, sometimes they're separated from studying Torah, they can always return to Torah. Okay, that's number one. But another idea is that focus on the word right in the sentence, v'talamdim chukei chaim, that you taught them the chukei chaim. So normally, how do we translate the word chok? Chok usually means something, a law that we're not able to understand. So what does it mean that Torah is a chok, that Torah is not something we can understand? So there's 2 explanations here. So number one is that it could be that chok doesn't really refer to Torah. Chukei chaim maybe just it means more sort of like the ground rules of life. There's a pasuk in Mishlei says, "Hatrifeni lechem chuki," meaning allow me my daily ration of food. So just like we need a ration of food to survive, so we need the Torah to survive. It's the rules of the survival of life. That's what Torah is. It's not, but it's something we can understand. So that's number one. That's explanation number one. But explanation number 2, it's a really beautiful explanation, is that really the word chok is correct, because in fact Torah is not something we can understand. When you think about it, it makes sense, because what is Torah? It's the wisdom of God. So how could that be that we as humans are able to comprehend? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. How can we even dare to think that's possible? Nevertheless, we know it has to be possible, right? Because there's a mitzvah to study Torah. Why would we have a mitzvah to study something that's impossible for us to understand? So the idea is that through the merit we get through the schus we get from learning Torah, God crowns us with success. At first when we start learning Torah, it's a hoax. It's impossible to comprehend. You open a Gemara for the first time, you say, I don't know what is going on here. First of all, it's in a language I don't understand. And then the question on this and what, it doesn't make any sense at first. And even after a while, it sometimes cannot make any sense. And that makes sense. That's very normal because Torah is a hoax. But if one makes a sincere effort, you put in a lot of ishtadlus, you try really hard to understand Hashem, you have bitachon that it's going to help, you're going to be able to achieve it. It's like the Gemara Megillah says that Im Yomar Chadam, if a person says to you, Yagati v'lo matzati, meaning I've tried and I've not found success, Al Tamin, don't believe that guy. He's lying. Lo Yagati matzati. If he says, I haven't tried, I didn't really try that hard to learn, but matzati, I was able to understand Torah. It's no problem for me. It's really easy. Al Tamin, don't believe that guy. Right? Yagati matzati. Only if someone says that I tried really hard and then I was able to find success for Torah, Tamin. Only in that case you're able to believe him, because Torah is a hoax. That's what it is, and it only comes to those who put their efforts into it. And we need to have trust in God that if we put our effort into it, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to help us out. That's why we say, right, Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, Kein Techaninu Tzamdeinu, meaning just like we say, Chonin Ladam Das, give us the capability to have the capability to comprehend the knowledge of Torah. So too, Techaninu Tzamdeinu, give us the ability to understand your Torah here. That's what we're asking for when we say Tzamdeinu Chukei Chaim. Okay, the next part of the tefillah continues. Avinu ha'aver hachaman hamrachim rachem aleinu. Our Father, the merciful Father, who acts mercifully, have mercy upon us. So, different ways to understand this, but it could be that this is even referring to the different parts of Torah. There's pshat, which is the basic meaning of the subject matter. There's drash, which is understanding based on words and text. There's remez, which is even a higher level of Torah, which is using gematria, and then there's sod, which is a secret level of Torah, which is very, very few people have ever been able to understand. So we start off by saying, "V'tein b'libeinu lehavin," give us in our hearts a depth of perception. This is the highest ability. This is lahavin, ulahaskil, and to understand that's even if we can't even understand the highest level, then we can understand a lower level. Lishmoa, that's the drush level. Leomod, and leomod is the most simple level that even if we can understand all those, we're just requesting the ability to learn on the pshat level. That's one way to understand. The other ideas that I've seen, lahaskil means to understand, and the Rokeach understands this means to not just to learn Torah, but to succeed in Torah and to make sure that our learning is correct. A lot of times we can be studying things and take something out of the passage which isn't exactly what it says, and in order to be learning the correct things, we need help from God, who's it's His Torah. Make sure that what we're learning is correct. When some people have the custom to, before they start learning, they say a special tefillah, and in the tefillah it includes the statement to make sure I don't make a mistake with my learning, and I don't tell someone something which is tameh is tar, right, or something which is mutter, something which is okay is usher. Make sure everything I'm saying is correct, and we have to daven for that and make sure that that's correct. And then lishmoa, to hear. So there's the idea that lishmoa doesn't mean to hear; it means also to never forget, to hear and remember. And that's learned out from Yaakov. It said by Yishma Yisrael that he heard Reuben and he didn't forget. Also, another idea about hearing is that there's the idea based on the Gemara that Rabbi Shua ben Chanina's mother, he would bring him into the Beis Medrash just to hear the words of Torah when he was a baby, even though he didn't understand. So I once heard that that if you just hear words of Torah, meaning even if you don't understand, even if you don't understand the words of Torah, if you go to a shir and you just listen to the words, so in the next world they're going to be giving shears on what you heard, even though you didn't understand, and you're going to be able to follow, and it's all gonna become clear to you. So just even at the very least, just going to the shears and letting the sound of the words go into your ears is going to do great things for you in the next world. So kopi, that's also what we're referring to in Shmo. Also, that some people have the ability to read and understand very well, but once someone else starts to open their mouth and starts talking to them, they can't understand at all what they're talking about. But we want both. We want the ability to learn on our own, but also we want the ability to hear other people and hear what they have to say, because there's you never want to learn alone. You want to learn with chavrusa, mitusa, as Hillel likes to tell me a lot. It's either give me chavrusa, you give me death. You need to make sure to learn with other people. Learning chavura is a good thing. That's what Chazal tell us. So you need the ability to hear and learn, not just to learn on your own. Okay, and then the mode to learn, and then next one is ulila made, and we're also asking to teach. So I think there's two ideas here. Number one is that you that you don't really understand something unless you're able to teach it. That's the sign that you truly understand something, is you're able to give it over, and then it's yours. So that's even part of Lil mode, is to Lila made. It could be they're going together. That's one way of explaining it. Another idea is that idea I just heard from Moshe Benovitz. He runs NPSY Kolal. So he told us an idea a few weeks ago that, based on the Pirkei Avos, that the Pirkei Avos says, "Im lamarta Torah harbe al tachzik la'atzmecha ki lekach notzarta." So the most common explanation of that phrase is that means if you learned a lot of Torah, don't pat yourself on the back. Don't say, I'm great, I did this good thing. Ki lekach notzarta, because that's why you were born. You were born on this earth to do that. That's why you're here. So he said that's how most people like to explain that sentence in Pirkei Avos. But he said he heard a different explanation, which he likes better. He said that it means that if you learned a lot of Torah, al tachzik la'atzmecha, don't hold it for yourself. Meaning, don't take it on your own. Don't keep it for yourself. Share it and go teach it. Go teach it to everyone else. That's what you were created for. Not to keep your Torah internally, but to share it with others and teach it to other people. That's their mission. So that was a nice idea. Anyways, lishmor. Next one, to safeguard. That means to preserve your Torah by not just enough to learn it once. You have to review your studies again and again to make sure you actually know it. That's what it means lishmor, to keep your Torah. Ulasos is to make sure you're not just studying for the sake of intellectual pursuits. It's the Gemara in Kedushin tells us Talmud Gadol Talmud maybe lidei ma'aseh, that learning is greater. Why? Because it causes one to act. The point of learning is not just to learn on your own, but you want to be able to make sure to keep the mitzvos. You have to do both. It says in Pirkei Avos, Loha midrashua ikar ela ma'aseh. The main part, right, is not the learning, but it's the ma'aseh, the practicing, the doing. You got to make sure to do also. Ulakayim, and to uphold. And this, I think we're asking for God to give us the strength to do mitzvahs that are even hard for us. Some mitzvahs we can do very easily. They make sense for us. And some mitzvahs, you're like, I wish we could have done without that one. That one's really hard for me. But we as God-fearing Jews who believe in the Torah, we want to do all the mitzvahs because God instructed us in them, and so give us the strength to do the mitzvahs that are difficult for us. As kol divrei Talmud Torah, all the words of your Torah's teaching. So again, 2 points here is that number one, to keep them, because as kol divrei Talmud Torah, right? We talked about these mitzvahs, to make sure to keep them, because sometimes you're doing these things just because that's how you were brought up, or because that's the normal way to act. But there's something nice about doing them because the Torah says to do them. So the more you learn, the more you understand, to be able to do mitzvos because the Torah is said to do them, not just because that's what you're doing. The other thing I can't help but think about every single time I say this phrase, it's kol divrei Talmud Torah secha, is to focus on the word kol. Kol means all the words of your Torah's teachings. And I remember, Shia remembers this too, for sure. That I remember when my father he did the Pidyon Peter Chamor, that he redeemed the firstborn donkey. That was what was so special about that event is that I think we were trying to make sure to keep all kol divrei Talmud Torah secha, do all the mitzvos in the Torah, even one that we would never have this obligation to redeem a donkey, but we went out of our way to do this mitzvah, to be mikayim kol divrei Talmud Torah secha. So we're asking for the strength to be able to do that. The Ahava, with love, help us perform these mitzvos and learn Torah, not just because we have to, but make us love doing them. Give us the ability to do that. They hire einenu b'saratecha, and enlighten our eyes through your Torah. So I think this phrase is really where we connect it to Yoter Me'or hire einenu, that this is the ha'er means enlighten. That's where the word or is from. This is the Torah or that we're talking about. Sometimes when we think in learning, when we're learning and we come up with a new idea, we get really excited by that. And the term for that is, someone had a ha'ara. That's what people like to say, that you had a good point, you had a ha'ara. So I don't know if this is exact. I don't know if it's correct, but it could be that that it's a reference a little bit to the idea that it's like light bulb. Light bulb. You got an idea, but it's maybe a little bit to the special light that there's no feeling like coming up with a when someone gets a chiddush, you're like, oh, this makes sense because this says over here. That's the or, that's the most special light of Torah. So could be that's what it's referring to. I'm not sure if it's spelled correctly, Hara, but that was still a nice idea. And attach our hearts to commandments. There's idea to be davik, stick ourselves to God's midos. We wanna like attach ourselves to Kadosh Baruch Hu. So attach our heart to your mitzvahs, make us stuck to you like glue. Unite our hearts to love and fear your name. What are these two hearts? So our two hearts, it's the Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem. We need both. There's an aspect of to make sure to love God and to do mitzvahs, to run, to love, to do them, smile on our face. But there's also the aspect of Yiras Hashem, fearing God, and they're both necessary for Avodas Hashem. V'lo nivos le'olam va'ed, and so that we will. This is a hard line for me. This means v'lo nivos le'olam va'ed. It literally means so that we will not be put to shame for all eternity. So the one way of explaining it is, I think that sometimes, in this world we experience a little bit of embarrassment when we put on our kippah and we go out in the world, we're doing mitzvot, everyone's looking at us. So give us the strength to be able to do mitzvot without being embarrassed. That's how I always read this sentence. So I think that there's definitely part of that give us the strength to not be embarrassed by this. This is because we know this is the truth. Just sometimes peer pressure is a strong thing. So that's one shot. Another shot is that for those who don't like that, is that one day we're going to stand before Kadosh Baruch Hu. We're going to stand before God, and we're going to, He's going to give us the movie of our life. He's going to take us back to, February 8th, 2023. What were you doing today? And you're like, oh, I could have been studying, but could have been learning Torah. I could have been going to Minyan, but there's a Super Bowl. I had to watch the game. So, we're asking God, give us the make sure help us do the mitzvos, and fear you and love you and be able to study Torah. So that way, when when you put on the movie tape and we go, look, we're not going to stand for you embarrassed because we know we kept your mitzvahs in Torah. Two ways to explain it. Okay. Because we have trusted in your great and awesome holy name. May we exalt and rejoice in your salvation. Bring us home to peace from the four corners of the earth. Right. So those key, according to the second shot, which we said, we know that we shouldn't be embarrassed because we're gonna stand for you in Olam, at the end. So the next few sentences are all talking about Olam Haba, that may we exalt and rejoice in your salvation in Olam Haba, and then it's saying the Haviyinu Shlomer Ba'akampo starts that even before Olam Haba, allow us in this world to experience the Mashiach and bring us Shalom from all the four corners of the earth. So I always thought, in a separate note, that, you see in your siddur, I always thought this is the time when you're supposed to take your four tzitzit, right? You gather them together, wrap them on your hand, because it says Arba Kampos Aretz, that it says four corners, and you have four corners of your talit. So I make sure to double check, and I still saw that in my siddur, but I saw another siddur that they said that's not correct, and that you should actually gather your tzitzit at the next line, lead us upright into our land, because they said that was the Rizal's minhag, because it symbolizes gathering the tzitzit, symbolizes our desire for kibbutz galuyos, meaning gathering of everyone together during the time of Mashiach, and that's what we mean when we're saying with totally lead us upright to our land. I don't know if I'm getting confused a little bit. Maybe they're really saying the same thing, and they really are. Maybe it's like in between them. I guess I'm not sure, but that's what I did want to just mention that. Ki Kel Paul Yeshua Tata, because you are the Almighty who does work out salvation, right? The spiritual who does works of salvation, the spiritual works for us. You have chosen us from all nations and tongues. We are the chosen nation, and we have the privilege to be given the ability to study Torah. The care of Tanu you have the care of Tanu means karob, close. You have brought us close to your great name and truth. Lehodos lecha, to thank you. And if you notice, Uvan v'charta, that sounds very familiar, right? It's very similar to the bracha birchas Torah, asher bachar banu, right? Uvanu v'charta, you have chosen us. It's the same thing, because this is really where the idea is that you would fulfill your obligation of birchas Torah. It's the same themes of the blessings that you would say when in the beginning in the morning to on the ability to be studying Torah. And to declare your unity, your oneness with love. Just a nice gematria, because I know Hillel likes gematria, is that li'achadcha b'ahava. So yachadcha is the word echad, and b'ahava is from the word ahava. So the gematria of echad is 13, and the gematria of ahava is 13. Li'achadcha b'ahava, you put it together, is the gematria of 26, which is the name of God. Yod K Vav K is 26. Okay, that's just a nice gematria. And then finally, the last line, Baruch Atah Hashem habocher imo yishal b'ahava. Blessed are you, Hashem, who chooses his people, Israel, with love. And that's the end. And from there, we go into the Shema. Okay, now we'll stop for any questions.